Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations. One Word Conversations is a self-discovery, relationship-building conversation designed to invite you to look at our language and see how we're connecting and disconnecting. Many times, words don't just come with definitions, they come with stories and expectations and feelings. And then we'll find ourselves in a state of disconnection when we thought that connection was possible. So, if we're willing to have a one word conversation, we can learn more about ourselves, the person that we're speaking with, and maybe, just maybe, build a relationship. One More Conversation is brought to you by IamWilliamBrown.com, a place to help you be yourself and live your life. One way I spotlight what's available at IamWilliamBrown.com is our U cards. Our U cards are part of the Beyond the Shell book series. The two books, The Journey to Stay You and Finding You Beyond What Protects You. So I pick the U cards to set the intentions for the conversation. And so here they go. So I am full of joy. You are full of joy. And be you, the world will adjust. Now, when I pick, I guess, two of the same cards, that means joy is going to show up within this conversation. Joy for me shows up in a lot of smiles and giggles and all those things. It just kind of just shows up. So it'll be interesting how that comes up within the context of what we're doing today. So this is the moment where I invite you to like, share, ask questions, subscribe, do all the things to let me know that you are a part of the conversation also. Now, I will bring in the word for today. The word is guide. And this word has been landing for me a number of different ways. So it'll be very interesting how it shows up within our conversation today. As I do, I invite a guest in so we can have a conversation. Good morning.
Hi, William. How are you?
I am doing great. This is the moment where I invite my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Erin Esser, and I am a master possibility coach. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and I use tools such as astrology, human design, shadow work, inner child, and reparenting ourselves in order to guide people home to themselves.
Well, other than you're like an hour away from me. So the one thing that I love about this show is that, I invite people from, all over the world, and every once in a while, someone that's like right around the corner shows up on the show that I don't know. Right. So that's great. The other thing that I just recently, did, and I like maybe 4 weeks ago, I never heard of it before, but I did the human design session. So I was like, and now somebody is on my show. That's
Of course.
So
right?
it's like, all right. So, I have so many questions about that still that I'm still kind of unpacking for myself with there. So yeah, I'm just like floored about how many things that are showing up in my life that continue to show up.
I love it.
So there is definitely a guide, right? So how does the word guide land for you?
Well, the word guide lands for me in the way of, I look at words too as, I and anything really as a tool. So it's a tool of awareness, or it can be a tool of, to take us away from ourselves. And like I said in my introduction, I'm a guide in a way, a master possibility coach, but I guide people home to themselves.
Right.
And so guiding for me, I'm a visual person. And so I get a picture in my mind of, just walking next to someone, kind of walking along their path, helping to guide them when they start to maybe veer off or
Right.
stop or don't think they can go anymore. It's that
Right.
encourager along the way as well, too, of like, now let's go. You can do this. You got this. Let's go.
Right.
Not doing it for them, but guiding them
Right.
along their own path.
Right. There is this sense of, I'm trying to remember the exact words, but it is lightly touching, right? Kind of guiding people along, just kind of moving people along. I will find the words. Sometimes this happens on the show where words come and they don't come, right? Right.
Yeah.
But the really for me, how guideline lands for me is it's a lot around trust for me.
Mm,
Is that there is I spent a lot of my life doing or feeling that there was a supposed to in my life, right? I was supposed to be doing this. This is how my life should go. And so I really didn't allow my life or situations to guide me. It was just there was a told,
mm,
there was this
yeah.
demand on my life.
Yeah.
And so that pressure of it really caused me to, I don't want to say to rebel, but to kind of say like, what the hell, right? Right. It's
Yeah.
like, it's like, and so really trying to embrace the flow of my life, right? The ease
Mm,
of my life. And I think that's how guide is showing up. And so the
yeah.
more that I can just quiet myself and allow my life to just guide me through,
Yeah.
um, that's um, that's what I'm embracing now.
I love that, and what I hear in that too is just that trust, and when you said trust, it I could feel it in my like gut, my sacral kind of area, and it was like, oh, just this almost like release.
Mm,
And you're so right. It's really allowing life to guide us, this life force energy that is available to us all the time, but it's surrendering into that
right,
versus these expectations, these shoulds, like you're saying, supposed tos and shoulds,
right,
allowing them to question. I'm a big one. I use questions a lot, and it's like, wait a minute, what is this showing up in my life for? Am I supposed to do this? Says
right,
who?
right,
I should do this? Says who? Says what? And allowing that to kind of move to the side so that this life force energy can truly come in and be the guide, because we do have our own internal GPS. I really do
right,
feel that, our own internal guide, and sometimes we lose that along the way.
right,
And so we have to, and then trust can come in with somebody else. Like, I need you to help guide me.
right,
However, my thing is we can guide people away from themselves too, right? Or
right,
guide people to themselves. And so it's being so in tune to our own GPS system internally to know if if it resonates with us or not. And that's, I love human design, and now it just got brought up already on this show, and that's a guide also back
right.
home to ourselves. And I'm interested, would you mind sharing like what type you are?
Oh, I'm trying to, without having the very detailed chart that it's like how I don't know if you do this sometimes when I look at something. I don't look like at one area. I look at the whole thing.
Mhm.
And so that's why when I was looking at the chart and everything, it was like so overwhelming that I was trying to look at the whole thing instead of
Yeah.
just like, okay, one area, let's look at what's going on in here. And so I know that there was one thing that that it kind of hooked me, that is there. I don't know if it was a strength or it was something. It was a strategy. I think that's what it's called. A
Strategy
strategy.
and
My
authority.
strategy is response.
So you're a
Uh,
generator.
damage. So now, see, now you can help.
Generator.
That's what the word I was looking for. So so I was the response. So I am a generator. I can now see that. Yes, I'm a generator. So
Yeah.
and I think the conversation. I'm a self-awareness coach, and so how that shows up for me is is basically getting people aware of themselves, getting an actionable awareness of themselves. A lot of times, when I had a challenge, or I've had my identity was put in question, then I would go into like this navel gazing of what to who am I, and it just kind of sit in the corner and kind of do that. And I realized that um, there there has to be an action within that awareness. And
Mm,
it's like that when and I think it goes back to trust and guide, that I the more that I get aware of myself.
yeah.
So I'll put it this way, that I embrace that I'm whole and complete, right? So I'm whole and complete, and at the same time, I am currently not aware of my completeness. It doesn't mean
Mm,
that I'm missing anything. It's just that I'm not aware of everything.
yeah.
And so the more that I stay in action, I become more aware
Yeah.
of my completeness.
Yeah.
And I think trusting that guide, trusting the people in my life, the tools that show up to really kind of um I don't want to say guide me. It's like guide me home and guide me to the world, right? Guide me into
Yeah.
my purpose. Guide me in, that it's just there is this. I've gotten this image a couple weeks ago. I guess it was a busy couple of weeks. There's a lot of things were happening there, right? But this seed, right? This seed that's being planted,
Yeah.
because someone said to me that always you're looking to the light, you're looking for the light, and so the seed bursts open. I got this image of the seed bursting open and getting rooted in the ground
Mm,
and reaching for for the light, for the sun, for the
yeah.
for the out. And I think
Mm,
our guide is bringing us to ourselves and taking us to the world. The more that we know who we are, the
yeah.
more that we are a benefit to the world. And
Yeah.
hopefully that made sense, right? But that's
Totally.
that's
Hmm.
how I see it, and that's really embracing that, and the number of things that come up, the number of people that help us through that.
I love what you just said there. The phrase that you said, the more we are aware of ourselves and know ourselves, the more we can be a benefit to the world. And And that is so true. And right now, too, as we're entering into this whole new season in the world, we're in, this Aquarius season. And even within human design, it's guiding us into this whole new realm, around 2027. And between now and 2027, it's really understanding who are we so that we can be of service to the world, and not laying ourselves down and negating our individuality and negating who we are for the sake of the world. And
Right.
that's the fine line that we all get to decide, as we move forward in these next few years. And so this idea of guide, what are we being guided to? And I love how you put it is a both and. It's we're being guided to ourselves and to the world. And it's not just the world, it's not just
Right.
ourselves, but how can we merge these two together and bridge this duality?
Right. It is um, it is very. it's like it's easy and it's tough. What I'm having right now is what I call a download. Something that's coming through my head. I haven't had time to figure it out, but it's coming out of my mouth. So good luck,
Yeah.
right?
All good. Yeah.
And so it feels like um, un disconnecting or relearning um, how I relate to the world, right?
Mhm.
And there is
Yeah.
this feeling that I knew that there was a lot of things not working, right? Or I was like aimlessly like lost, and it's like I was lost and didn't know that I was lost. You know,
Mhm.
and now there is this sense that okay, take us take a pause
Mhm.
and then make a step.
Mm.
And there's something that I just added in my coaching, a framework within my coaching is called Step Zero. And it's step zero is that awareness, the mindset, become aware of who you are, and your guide, right? What is being um, communicated with you before you take your first step. And
Mm.
I
I
think
like that.
sometimes step zero can take a moment,
Yeah.
or it can take years, right? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there have been many times where, because I'm one of those people guilty as charged that procrastination
Yeah.
shows up for me as let me just think about it a little more, right?
Yeah.
Let me learn a little more about this, and then we'll
Mm.
do something.
Yeah.
And all it was doing was keeping me from showing up in my life,
Mm.
keeping me from being of benefit to the world.
Yeah.
And it's you know there is this urgency. It's like I'm saying my closing line. um, what I say at the end of the show, like not even in the middle of the show, but I say that the world wants you, the world needs you, but the world isn't waiting for you. So go be you.
Ooh.
And so the
Wow.
the recognition that
Mm.
we are purpose, our life is purpose,
Yeah.
and there is a need, and there is a want for us to live our purposeful life. But life is going to, life is happening, right?
Mhm.
We,
Yeah.
because of this concept of time, we think that, oh, well, I'll be myself tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, no, we need you to be yourself today,
Yeah.
right now. Um, and yeah,
Yeah. So, can I ask you a question,
sure.
on that? What does it mean for you when you say, "We need you to be yourself," right? What does that mean for you to be yourself in those moments of taking action?
It is that I have a conversation. I have a conversation around labels.
Okay.
So living beyond our labels, and
Mm.
so the labels are just how we're showing up, right?
Yeah.
So the and our meaning behind that. So an African American male, you know, old, or 53-year-old, whatever, or whatever. And, sometimes it's like that's a young label and an old label, depending on who's looking at it, right?
Right, right, right.
And their
Absolutely.
and their context.
Yeah.
So what I mean being you, and being myself, is that am I responding to you? Am I speaking to you from those labels or those ways of being,
Mm.
or am I just
Mm.
speaking? Am I just being led, being guided to just have a conversation,
Ooh, I
and
love
and
that.
and not hold not see your labels and say, well, I need to, these are the labels that I'm speaking to, and this is what, and just kind of go from
Mm.
there. And it's not that I'm dismissing those labels, but those labels aren't me.
Yeah.
In order for me to really embrace, Dr. Seuss, there's no one youer than you,
Mm,
you
yeah.
know, I have
Yeah.
to look at the you of myself that nobody else has.
Mm, yeah. I love that. It's beautiful.
And so the more that I can show up that way,
Yeah.
and, sometimes it feels like I have no idea who just showed up right now,
Yeah.
because there's many parts of myself that I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And that's exciting and confusing, right? But
Sure.
I rather be that than an imitation of someone else.
Mm. Life is a mystery to be lived.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah. And what I hear you saying too is just it's a soul. It's connecting like what are we being guided? How are we being guided? What is guiding us when we're connecting with another human being?
right,
What is the energy that's guiding us? And is it our authentic soul to soul energy that's guiding us? Or, what is that? And being aware, then also bringing self awareness into that and asking
right,
ourselves, what is guiding me right now in this interaction? What is guiding me right now as I'm walking down the street? What is guiding me right now as I am in the checkout lane at the supermarket, talking
right,
to the checker or the person in front of me? What energy is guiding me in this right now?
right. And
Yeah.
it's like so often, um, I believe, I'll speak for myself, I will allow my label to speak for me, listen for me, guide me, and then I'm questioning why, I am not being heard. Well, I'm not being
Mm,
heard because I didn't show up, right? Right, because my
wow.
labels were there, you
Yeah.
know. And it's like if I really want to show up for myself and show up in the world, I have to be there. That's why it's important to be yourself.
Mm, yes.
And I have mentioned, I have adult children, and I mentioned a time that I guess it was painful, because my dad label was so strong
Yeah.
that my kids stopped speaking to me,
Mm,
or just did the yes nos, all of those things. And I really had to come to terms with the reason why they didn't have a conversation or a relationship with me,
yeah.
because they knew what dad was going to say, right? They
Mm,
knew the
yeah.
dad label, right? So it's like, you know what? I don't need to ask you about that. I don't need to ask dad. I know what dad thinks.
Yeah.
And I really got to a place, and age has helped, and them living in different places, they're able to not just have a conversation with dad, but they have a conversation with William.
Mm,
And and I really appreciate that, even within all of those times where the dad label was trying to keep them safe, trying to keep them healthy, try to keep them out of trouble, all the things that what I thought dad should
yeah.
do, um, they were still able to connect with me.
Yeah.
So, human to human, soul, soul to soul, really
Mhm.
realize that beyond that label,
Yeah.
this other human being really cares for me on a level, um, that, maybe a few years that, we didn't understand or appreciate, but now we kind of get it. And it was the same thing with my wife. The challenges that I've had with my wife in the past, that the husband label was doing what the husband label felt that he needed to do, say, get out of the way, all the things that the husband, felt that he could do.
Mm,
But there were moments where, Delilah wanted to speak to William.
yeah.
And the more that I was able to allow myself to show up within those conversations and guide me through the difficult times, then um, we could really communicate on a level that would make a difference.
I love this. I'm thinking about just what you were saying too about your children. And I feel I have 3 children myself. They're not adults yet, 2 teens and one 11-year-old, almost 12. But
Yeah, they just think they're adults, right?
oh yeah, yeah, especially my 16-year-old. And so but I love that because I feel that so many parents um still have this label of parent child even when the child becomes an adult,
Mhm.
and there's no getting to this, like you said, human to human connection, where this is another human being that I can connect with, instead of what is the energy, right, that's guiding me in this connection. Is it still that I have to have control? Is it a controlling energy because they're my child still, even though
Right,
they're maybe 30 or 35 or 40 or 50, even, who knows, right?
right,
But what is guiding us in that, in those interactions, and what is it, am I really going to the depths within life and being able to receive all that life has for me in
right,
this interaction with whoever it is? And I feel that what our answer to the question is, what is guiding me in this connection right now? What is guiding me in this interaction
right,
will be the determining factor of what will come out of that
right.
interaction as well.
Absolutely, and I think it goes back to that trust.
Yeah.
I I realized in my communications that I had to trust that if dad didn't speak to my kids,
Yeah.
um, they would get my heart, right? They would get an understanding. They could, I would have to trust,
Yeah.
that, I need to take a breath and not kind of show up fully in this way. And, um, one of my core values that I embrace, um, in some cases too tightly, but it's independence.
Mm.
And so my 3 core values are, curiosity, independence, and compassion. And so separately, they're like lovely words, right? Right? But and sometimes they get me into trouble. And so the independence, there's sometimes that I am so hell bent on having my independence, I miss being guided.
Yeah.
And just I miss the opportunities when another beautiful soul, is sharing, their life and sharing something that could benefit me on my journey. Because it's like, okay, that's great. That's your life. That has nothing to do with me. It and that's true, and it's not true, right?
Yeah.
And so there are so many moments where I feel that I have, it wasn't even trust. Didn't trust the guide. It's just like I just ignored the guy. It's like, yeah, people would say this is, a guy thing with directions, right? It's
Yeah.
like, dude, okay, that's a bike. This is the directions. I know what a bike looks like. So, it's like, I don't need the directions. I can put,
Yeah.
I can put together. I mean, that's how many times I show up in my life, that it's like, there are guides, there are opportunities, there are people that
Mm.
are not telling me what to do, but they're just kind of showing me, hey, here are some things that you may need to look at or be aware of.
Yeah.
And I'll just go, that's good to know. Right, right,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and and toss it to the side. And now what could have taken, months now or years, right? With a lot more, tears and, less money and all the, all the
Yeah.
things that your guide was trying to help you through.
I think that there's just so much in this conversation that we're having right now. And I feel that this guiding factor and life guiding us really does go back to just something that you said too before about labels. And one of the things that I ask my clients too is when they say this, or when it's like mom or whatever it is, define what that means, right?
Mm.
Define, what does it mean to be a parent? What does it mean to be a dad, right? You're saying dad. Or what does it
Right.
mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a parent? What does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be a mom? All these labels that we have on ourselves.
Right.
And but whatever, however we define those labels, it puts us in that box, because
Right.
then we can only operate out of those labels, and
Right.
then nothing else is possible outside of that little box.
Right.
How our definitions are limiting us in how we can express ourselves within that label. And
Right.
so when we can pay attention to how life is guiding us, paying attention to every single, and I need to be reminded of this as well, paying attention to every single person that is in our field as we're even driving, right? I wonder how life could show up differently for us if we could
Mhm.
pay attention and so be so present in the moment to all of the guides that life is giving us, that our subconscious, however we want to view that as, is
Right.
because they're all reflecting back to us pieces of ourselves in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And so, if we want to really learn about who we are and be guided back home to ourselves, I wonder what it could just be if we just chose to pay attention. Every morning, we could wake
Right.
up and say, all right, I'm going to allow life and every present moment that I'm in to guide me,
Right.
and be open to that.
Right. No, I think that's great. There were two things that that's a part of, I guess, my practice, or my coaching, and I say it at the beginning of the show is, happy today. What happy today means for me is finding gratitude and thankfulness and
Yeah.
appreciation. Right. That's where happy shows up for me.
Mhm.
In today is the moment, is now. So finding gratitude
Mm,
and appreciation now. And
mm,
so I can have my happy today. You can have your happy today anytime
mm.
that you are aware of what you're grateful for and what brings you joy and all that in this moment.
Yeah.
And because there's many times that I was looking for, I don't know what the hell I was looking for, but I mean, but I would just, at the end of it, it's like, yeah, I'm not happy, right? It's like, I don't know what happy is, but I didn't
This
find it,
isn't it.
right? Right? This ain't it, right? And it's so more that I have not, like you were saying, that as soon as you decide a label, you're kind of boxed in. It's kind of funny. A number of years ago, when I started this conversation on labels, I felt it was very dark and very depressing, and I wanted to have it an uplifting and a spiritual kind of, look. I've embraced that my self discovery journey is a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
I've just embraced that, but I haven't used those words a lot. But when I first started this conversation around labels, it was boxed in and labeled,
Mm,
because
yeah.
it was, I was really getting into that. As soon as I identify this label, as soon as someone gives me this label or I take this label, I am
Yeah.
now boxed in.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, I get it, but I don't want to be talking about that all the time because it makes me mad, right?
Yeah.
So, and then it moved to living beyond our labels. So the recognition
Mm,
that, yes, our labels will box us in, but we have a choice
yeah.
because we're not our labels.
Yeah.
We can stay boxed in or not. It's our choice.
Mm,
And it's, I am desiring, and, a one part of this, these one word conversations are expanding my understanding of the word. I can stay with what I think guide means
yeah.
and just stay there at the end of this conversation. Okay, let's agree to disagree. This is what you think guide is. This is what I believe guide is. And we'll just go on with our lives. But the more that I hear how guide shows up for you, the more that I get a fuller understanding and
Mm,
appreciation. The more that I see what your label means to you and how you're showing up, the more that I get an understanding
yeah.
that I can say that my Black label or my African American label means this.
Yeah.
And it can mean something totally different to you. It's not right or wrong, it's just different. But if I
Yeah.
don't understand how that label means and or what it means to you,
Mhm.
then we might be at odds just
Yeah.
because our understanding has nothing to do with anything else. It's just our understanding of what that how that label shows up. But
Yeah.
if we're willing to say this is what um, this is how that shows up for me. This is how I see you
Mm,
in that. Then we can go from there instead of just shaming and blaming you to say, well, you're wrong, right? Right? Well,
yeah.
that's not me, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and because that is the truth.
Yeah.
I can be upset because the little old white woman grabs her purse when I walk by. That has nothing to do with me.
Yes. Yes.
And it's
Absolutely.
absolutely did nothing to do with me.
Nothing. It's a
There,
reflex. Yeah.
right. And so there is, there's a lot of conversations where it feels
Mm,
like I think you said earlier that we're being guided to ourselves and guided away from ourselves. And I think there's a lot of conversations, especially around race, that is guiding us away from ourselves.
mm, yeah.
And it's just really because it's guiding us to the label, and labels will defend labels, but not
Oh,
people.
yeah, that's so true. And it generalizes just the label. It doesn't come from it's not a soul level.
Right.
It's not defining you or it's not honoring you as a human. It's
Right.
just the box that it comes in. It's just the
Right.
box of what that is.
Absolutely. And we're
Wow.
being we're being asked to, for whatever reasons, I don't know. I've said on a couple of shows that let's blame it on capitalism. Everybody else blames it on capitalism. Let's just do that, right?
Yeah.
I a part of my history is I did technology consulting, and I still have a conversation around technology. And there's a T-shirt a T-shirt design that I never made, so it's just a design. But it was like technology, the best excuse ever. It's like
Yeah.
anytime you don't want to deal with something, just blame it on technology. It's
Yeah.
probably the cost, right? Right. It's like
It's like
it's
the dog ate my homework, right? It's
right.
just
It's
technology.
I'm sure the technology had something to do why you didn't show up. you know,
Yeah, right, right.
so but yeah, and it's like what is guiding us? What are we allowing ourselves to be guided to? And I think that's what this time is asking for
Mm.
us to just get aware of that.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you're just saying too, just the labels and especially when you're talking about being a black man, African American man too, and just with the talks of race and how it can bring us actually away from ourselves. This
Right.
all of this talk and for who knows, we can all speculate of the reasons of all of why everything is happening
Right.
in the world right now. And when it comes down to it at the end of the day, it's, I have to be satisfied when my head hits the pillow in how I've shown up for myself in that day. And you have to be
Right.
satisfied with how you've shown up, and
Right.
how you've shown up for yourself in the day. And I fully believe that the more we give ourselves permission to be guided by our authentic self
Right.
and to be guided in that space and to give ourselves permission to
Right.
be ourselves, to be guided in that, the
Right.
more we're actually helping to liberate others to come out of the boxes that they're in, of the masks that they've been wearing, and that
Mhm.
realize that there's a time and a place for those masks for sure.
Right.
And they are not us at the end of the day. At the end
Right.
of the day, we are a soul being connecting soul to soul. And how do we want to show up for that part of ourselves and for the other as well too?
Right. That really is the conversation with the beyond the shell, um, finding you beyond what protects you.
Mm.
Um,
Ooh,
it is really, I recognize
yeah.
that my label, right? The shell, right? um,
It's meat
was
soup we're
protect.
in.
It was protecting me, and it
Yeah.
was keeping me from myself.
Mhm. Oh, wow.
Um,
Oh.
and and so it's
Mm.
like, how can you acknowledge and appreciate your labels?
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to deny, how you're showing up in the different labels that you have. They're very important,
Yeah.
but not lose yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
This is exactly this. I love how you just worded that because it's you just what you said, acknowledge our labels, but not losing ourself for the sake of the label. And it's kind of goes back to even the beginning, how this is this energy we're stepping into, which is all about this word guide, but it's this whole Aquarian age. It is, are we going to honor our individuality and know ourselves so that we can benefit
right,
the world, the whole, or
right,
are we going to lose ourselves for the sake of the whole, based
right,
on labels, based on judgments, based on just words that don't have the soul underneath those words, and this
right,
connection that a word can either disconnect or
right,
a word can connect if we know the questions to ask each other. And then it goes back to one of the values that you mentioned, that you have a core value is compassion, right?
right.
So that
Mhm,
compassion, can we have enough compassion to allow curiosity
mm,
to ask a question to somebody else, to say, hey, I hear you're saying this word, or I hear this, or maybe watching the behavior and asking the question, what does this mean for you? How
right,
does this show up for you? So that we can enter in with compassion and understanding, instead of having this battle between, just what the labels maybe mean, what it means to me, what it means to you. We're literally
right,
just, we're in it. So we're using this word to disconnect versus using curiosity and compassion to connect.
right. It's really, for me, you know, people are are not in odds with each other.
Yeah.
Labels are, right? We're
Yep.
allowing our labels to fight with each other. You know, you can turn on any newscast, or you can turn on, you can go to your social media and just see
Oh my
labels
word.
just go out of it. Right? It's like,
It's insane, right? It
right,
is. I saw an article the other day, and it was saying, and I just laughed because I thought, oh my word, like, wow, and I thought it was a joke at first, but it was very serious, and
mhm,
it was like, "The yoga community is riddled with anti-vaxxers and QAnons." I'm like, "Oh, gasp!" Like, "Oh
right,
my word!" Like, and I thought, "Okay, how is this deemed appropriate to connect humanity when we're just marginalizing 2 groups of people? What if we replaced those 2 groups
right,
with other groups? That
right,
wouldn't be okay and appropriate in any way. So how is this appropriate in any way too?
right,
There are people underneath those labels. And the
right,
minute we start to demonize somebody based on a label,
right,
that is it's not it
right.
doesn't do any good for anybody.
Wow. And it's and yet we know that, and we don't know that.
Yeah.
I think we can talk about this for hours, because there's a couple things that has really kind of showed up. It's like, wow, it's like, when am I going to allow myself, um, to kind of trust to guide my
Yeah.
way home, and guide my way through. So,
Mm.
is there anything that's come up within this conversation that you want to leave everybody with?
Gosh. Um, I've loved this conversation. Like you said, we could talk about this for hours, like you said that too. And so I feel the same way. I, I feel something that I'm going to step away from this conversation with is, and if anybody else wants to do the same thing, is just really asking myself the question in every moment that I can be aware of, is what energy is guiding me right now? And
Hmm.
is this how I want to show up for myself and the people that I'm with right now and for my life?
Hmm. Yeah. Is this the energy that I want to guide me? Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much, Aaron. This has been great. You're
Yeah.
an hour away, right? But
I
it seems
know.
like so. So it is great. But thank you for being a part of this conversation. I
Yeah,
definitely expanded my understanding and my awareness of guide.
I did as well.
Um,
It was really a pleasure, William. Thank you so much.
okay, thank you. Hopefully, you'll be able to hang out in the green room for a moment so we can say our
Absolutely.
goodbyes from there. Okay. Oh boy, our guide. Huh. Sometimes there's this randomness for me in my life. It feels like there's nothing guiding me, right? It feels like there's this randomness to my life. And I think the more that I just quiet myself, and then I can make the moves, say the things that are important, and I think really take that moment, as Erin said, to find what energy is guiding you, and you can make a decision. You can allow your emotions to guide you, right? You can allow fear, you can disappointment, you can allow people, you can allow whatever is shown up in what you're aware of. Um, but it's all up to you. I hope this conversation has brought value to your life, not just to your day. Um, I invite you to reach out to me at iamwilliambrown.com, a place to help you be yourself and live your life, for a complimentary coaching session. Because the world wants you, the world needs you, but the world isn't waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you tomorrow on One Word Conversations.